All right, we're live. So welcome to the Library Lifton, and I'm Lisa, and this is Anise.
No.
We're going to discuss Murder on the Orient Express tonight by Agatha Christie. So shall we start with stars? How many stars would you give this book?
I'm not sure what I rated it on Goodreads because I had read this before a few years ago. But I'd definitely say a 4 or 5.
Okay. I think I went with a 4, if I remember correctly. This is the first time that I read it, but I think I put my review like a month ago.
Was this your first Agatha Christie book?
No, I've read only one other. And Then There Were None.
Oh.
This was definitely better than that one, in my opinion. I mean, it was good, but I liked it a lot better.
I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads.
Okay, there you go. Are you going to change it to 5 now?
No, I'll leave it at 4. I don't know, but I'd probably give it 4.5. I don't know.
4 3/4. Yeah, I thought it was good. I'd maybe read it again. I don't feel the need to run out and buy it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I guess 4. All right. This is a super, I don't know, detailed book. Maybe lots of characters, lots going on, and a lot to keep straight. So some of it I think we're going to get as we go. I have a super, super short summary, so we'll go with that. I'm going to read that really quick, and then maybe we'll get some of the other details as we go. So from the publisher, this is HarperCollins. It says, just after midnight, the famous Orient Express is stopped in its tracks by a snowdrift. By morning, the millionaire Samuel Edward Ratchet lies dead in his compartment, stabbed a dozen times, his door locked from the inside. Without a shred of doubt, one of his fellow passengers is the murderer. Isolated by the storm, Detective Hercule Poirot must find the killer among a dozen of the dead man's enemies before the murderer decides to strike again. So that is the super, super short summary there. And you're going to probably have to correct me as we go through characters, because my European foreign language pronunciation is probably butcher loads of people's names, even if I try really hard. So I guess you start with Hercule Poirot is I wasn't 100% sure, but I think this is his first novel. Is that right? Is this
No, I believe this is the 10th one or something.
Oh, okay. Of course I would.
I don't remember, but the good thing about the Poirot books is that you don't have to read them in order, except for the very last one. I would save that one for very last, but all of the others, they are basically standalone.
Okay. And have you read any of the others?
Mm-hmm.
Several of the others?
I don't know how many. Several. It's several.
Several?
Yeah.
How do you think this compares to the others?
Well, I think there's a reason that this book is so famous and was such kind of a game changer for the genre, for the mystery novel genre. So I'd say it's one of my favorites.
Okay. I think it's interesting you pointed that out. Before I forget, going on to other things, I put on our Pinterest board, I found a list of Agatha Christie's top 10 of her own books. Christie's top 10 Christies. And this book is one of the top 10. It's about halfway down the list, roughly. And the reason that she gave is because it was a completely different format, a different way to explore the murder mystery. And anyway, so I thought, that's a good point. Like, the reason this is one of the favorites that keeps coming back up. It's just a totally different approach. You don't see it coming. So, all right. So Hercule Poirot is a private detective, retired Belgian police officer, and he's on the train. So he's on the Tourist Express to Istanbul, and he meets a couple of the other passengers, and they act like they're strangers, but he thinks maybe they're not strangers. So that's Mary Debenham and Colonel Arbuthnot, right? And then when they get to Istanbul, poor Poirot, who thinks he's going to go on vacation or holiday and take a little break, finds out that people just can't live without him. And he gets summoned back the other direction to go back to work on another case. And bumps into another friend of his. How do you say his last name? I'm going to say it wrong.
Book.
Book. Okay. So Monsieur Book, who is the head of the train line, or one of the directors of the train line, who makes sure that there's space for him on the train to go back the other direction. And so that's how we end up in this situation where Poirot is on this train. I don't know when this murder occurs, right? So he was supposed to pass on, and he doesn't. He's here, and then I guess right before they get ready to board the train, they decide to have dinner at the hotel, and Poirot sees a couple of the other passengers that end up being on the train later, and so that's Ratchet and Hector McQueen. And Ratchet stands up to Poirot as an awful, evil person. He just, even though he has all the good manners, he just rubs him wrong. And so that comes back up sort of later on. Do you have anything to kind of go with so far?
Well, no, except that I looked at how many Poirot books I've read, and it's at least 12.
Wow. So you're a fan.
Yes, there are 42, so it's not that many.
You're on your way. Well, that's, you have to be devoted, you know.
Yeah. So I've read just like random ones because they really aren't in any kind of order. So so yes, you can continue unless you want me to take over with what happens next.
No, you can just jump wherever you want.
So Ratchet wants to hire Poirot because he's nervous. He says that there's somebody after him, and Poirot says no. And then it turns out awkward on the train because then that guy gets killed. So it was true. So I think that's probably part of the reason why Poirot felt obligated to help. So other characters include the conductor for the train car and all of the passengers. There's a rich American woman, Mrs. Hubbard, who's always talking about her daughter. And
she's like the quintessential obnoxious American, right?
Yeah. I really enjoyed her portrayal in the audiobook. It was very funny. The version I listened to was read by David Suchet, who plays Poirot in the BBC TV show. So I enjoyed it. More than I would have otherwise, I think, because I've watched every episode of the show. And so even though I haven't read all the Poirot books, in the show they adapted every Poirot book into a show or a TV movie.
Okay.
So I am familiar with the stories.
Okay.
But anyways, so Ratchet was murdered, and there seems to be an unusual amount of evidence in the compartment. There's a pipe cleaner, a round match, different from the matches that Ratchet used, a charred piece of paper with the name Armstrong on it, and a handkerchief with the initial H, which is pretty unusual.
Well,
like, for a crime scene to have so many like conflicting.
and that's the thing, that they're conflicting, right? So the doctor comes in and examines the body in the crime scene with Poirot, and it's the fact that everything is, like the handkerchief suggests it's a woman, the pipe cleaner suggests it's a man, the stab wounds are all different, so some suggest it's a woman, some suggest it's a man, some suggest it's right-handed, some suggest it's left-handed, so they're all highly contradictory. And so that's kind of the thing of it, that nothing sort of collaborates. So
So we've gone over a few of the characters. There's also Hector McQueen, who was working for Mr. Ratchet. Then there's like a Swedish missionary and a Russian princess and a Hungarian diplomat and his wife. And so there's all kinds of people, like really, really different people, and they're all really really like strong characters, like very different kinds of people, all just traveling together on this train. And then this murder happens and the train gets snowed in and stuck. And so there's plenty of time for Poirot to figure out and to talk to everybody and to talk to them multiple times in depth and in different situations to figure out who the killer is.
They have nothing but time on their hands. So, and is your book? How's that? Okay. So he basically begs Poirot, like, this is going to be bad publicity. It's not, this is not a good thing. We're friends. We're, just do it for me. And this is going to be easy for you. So just figure it out. We're not going anywhere anyway. And it turns out that the snow plays a big part in the crime being able to be discovered, right? So if things didn't go quite according to plan, the snow messed things up. So that allowed him to sort of, unravel things a little bit. Maybe is the right thing. So,
what did you think of the characters in general?
It's funny because, like, as you're going through and you're meeting the different characters, it's a murder mystery, right? So I'm looking at each one, like nitpicking them, right? Do they say anything to contradict themselves? What does it say about their personality? Princess Dragomirov, the Russian princess, is just kind of ornery, and she's described as, an ugly old lady, and she's a grouch, and she doesn't really care about what she's saying. Or you have the obnoxious American lady, and so you kind of, I don't know, in books sometimes your descriptive characteristics, even not personality ones, just the way they look or whatever, can tend to give you a little bit of those clues about who they are. And so I'm kind of like gathering all these little things. And so you sort of form these opinions the one that says, I'm trying to remember his name, which one he is, that says he's works, that he's a detective, an American detective.
Oh, that was McQueen.
Is it McQueen?
It is. He was working for Ratchet as his like.
So he
or something.
I just thought like, oh, he's friendly. That's got a reasonable. Anyway, like I just bought into him, you know. Anyway, so when it does come out, what really happens? You're like, oh, I just believed everything. I'm not a very good detective, you know. So I just felt like I kind of bought into their pretend personalities very easily. The ones you weren't supposed to like, I didn't like. The ones you were supposed to like, I thought were, hey, I like them. But that comes back against you, you know, later.
Yeah, so. It does. And I think especially with this book and the way that it's set up, like it always reminds me of Clue. Like when I start reading it and all of these characters are coming in, they're just like really vivid and really different. And so I just think of Clue and I wonder, like did that trope exist before this? Like in this specific form? I don't think it did, where everyone is together and they can't leave and you're going to figure out what happened and it's all going to be explained to you.
Yes.
So that was just something I noticed.
Yes, for sure. And, you know, as you go, I don't know, as you go through the book, different people, like the doctor or Mr. Book or whatever will explain like that they have figured something out and they'll put forward a proposal, or they'll just ask Poirot, what does he think of a certain thing? And Poirot will be like, well, I don't know, or I know everything, but I know nothing, or, you know, there's no giving anything away. And so you just kind of, I don't know, you don't get anywhere. You don't get anywhere with it. So it's kind of, I don't know, it just kind of holds you in suspense the whole time. It just holds you there, like not really making any progress with it. I don't know. It's the right.
Yeah, I had the same feeling. I think that's one of the things about the setting of this book that makes it so great because, well, it's like a romantic setting, like being on this long train journey, like going to exotic places, and then something terrible happens. And it makes it less romantic, but it's still exciting. And I think that's part of why it's hard to figure it out, because instead of having like place being like location changing or whatever being part of that, it's kind of put in a way where like you know what the circumstances are and then that can just be ignored and all of the plot stuff like goes on and like you said, it's like going back and forth and like somebody will say something and you think that's right, but then it's not, and then someone else says something and it's getting more and more complicated and confusing.
Yes.
And I don't think that would work if there were also location changes.
Right. It's a very specific puzzle. Like the framework can't change. The framework is what it is. And you just have to keep refitting the pieces and refitting the pieces and refitting the pieces until you can figure out what, you know, which one goes where.
Yeah.
So, and, you know, the idea is that nobody is smart enough to do it except Poirot. Right.
What did you think of Poirot as a character?
He's a little obnoxious, I think. Like, I don't know that I really like him. Which I don't know where that puts me with the rest of the world, because I feel like he's popular. Maybe I'm reading that wrong. Maybe it's just the books and the show and the format that's popular, but I feel like he's popular. I feel like everybody and I find him a little arrogant. and irritating. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's really similar to Sherlock Holmes, is that kind of character also.
Yes.
But I think I'm probably able to like him as much as I do because of this show. Because of the way he's portrayed on this show, it comes off more as like in a funny way.
Okay.
Like he's full of himself, but he is really good at his job. And it comes off in more of an endearing way, I think.
Maybe I need to try the show.
But
I will. I found I have the same problem with Sherlock Holmes. I read, I don't remember when it was. There's a movie who came back from England. I read the entire works of Sherlock Holmes, like the whole canon, right? And I was positive I was gonna love it. And there were like 2 of the short stories that I liked. And the rest of it, I was like, this is crap. I don't like this. And I thought, what is wrong with me? And then like over the years, like I realized like there are all these other things that are based on Sherlock Holmes that I loved, right? There are all these shows and these other books that they follow the format, you know, to a T. And I was like, I love this. Why don't I like the original? What is wrong with me that I don't enjoy it? I haven't gone back and read them again. And I think maybe I need to, so that I can figure out for sure what the difference is. Yeah. I felt the same way about the original Sherlock Holmes. I was like, I don't know, but he's really irritating to me. So,
well, I know. I think I need to double check on this. Agatha Christie wanted to kill off Poirot. She wanted to, just like Sherlock Holmes author did.
Yes.
But she didn't do it.
Doyle brought Sherlock Holmes back to life, though.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they were contemporaries. I think I read something somewhere. They talked about it, and he told her that she should just kill him off, and she said no. Like she wanted to, like she was tired of his pompous personality, but she knew she couldn't kill him off until like she was done with Poirot.
That's interesting.
But anyways, so yeah, I like him as a character. It probably helps that he's not a real person. If he was a real person, I would probably like him less.
That's funny. Yeah, some people are. Well, like I love the Benedict Cumberbatch portrayal of Sherlock Holmes, but for sure could probably never handle him in real life, right? Like the character in real life portrayed like that would be the most irritating person you ever knew. So I can see that. The mustache is funny. I don't know how.
So you've seen the new movie adaptation. I haven't.
You didn't go see it?
No, not yet.
I thought you were going.
How was the mustache in that movie?
Abominable.
I knew it.
It's really aggravating through the whole thing. You just think to yourself, he wouldn't let it be like that.
I don't think
out of control. You just be like, no. Which is funny. I found today a thing, like it was a quote from Agatha Christie talking about the Albert Finney version from the I think it's from the 70s. Maybe not. It's the Albert Finney version of Murder on the Orient Express. And she said that overall it was a good portrayal, except the mustache wasn't right in that one either.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, I mean, she never, it just describes it not like very specifically, just like kind of generally. Uh, but no. Anyway, I know just sometimes it like just describes it as like it grabs your attention, and I think it is described as large sometimes.
Yeah.
But I really like from the David Suchet Poirot series. I like his mustache because it's just kind of uh, it's like a little twirly mustache. It's just funny.
It's
Like it's noticeable, but it's not like you can't stop staring at it.
right.
It's just what it is.
Not its own person. Yeah, the new movie, it was excessive and not, I just didn't feel like it was very neat. I don't know. Other characters too, I felt like some of them were on point and some of them I didn't feel like really nailed it. Maybe we can come back to that though. Any other, I guess we kind of talked about all the characters.
Mm-hmm.
I guess so. When Poirot finds the paper in the fire that says Armstrong, that tells him that Ratchet is not really Ratchet, but that gives him motive. He's really somebody named Cassetti, who was somebody who was wanted. Well, he was tried in America for a kidnapping and murder case. That and got off. In America, he got off. And so he said, okay, that's who he really is. And that gives us our motive. And that's why he's been killed now. Without that little piece of burnt paper, he would have not realized, right, who he was and what was going on. Do you remember who it was that burned the paper? I forget who it was.
I don't.
Somebody was surprised when they got interviewed by him that the paper was found.
Yeah. Well, then, as it turns out, so it was a little girl that was kidnapped and murdered, and it turns out as he talks to everybody that they all have some kind of connection to the Armstrong family in this case, which makes it even more confusing. Like when you're trying to figure out what's going on, you're like, what? Like this person has something to do with it too. And then everybody does. And then you're just like, well, I'll just wait here while you figure this out.
Right. But that ends up being the thing, right? That ends up being the thing, is that everybody is connected in some form or fashion, except the doctor.
But he was never a suspect, though.
Right, no. So the doctor and Monsieur Book and Poirot are the three like innocent people on the train. Mary Debenham turns out to be the governess, the little girl's governess, the girl that's kidnapped, right? Mrs. Hubbard, the obnoxious American lady, turns out to be the grandmother of the little girl. And she's really a famous actress, which I found interesting because, I don't know, because she's an actress, right? So she puts on this really big character, obnoxious character. Colonel Arbuthnot turns out to be really Colonel, he was a colonel, but he was a friend of Colonel Armstrong, so the father of the little girl. So he knew her that way. So a lot of the people were in the household, and he wasn't. He was just a friend of the family. The old obnoxious Russian Princess Dragomirov, Um, let's see, I forget, how is she connected? Isn't she the godmother? I think she's the godmother. I didn't get that one right, or get it down right, but I'm pretty sure she's the godmother. She was a friend of the actress Linda Arden. Hector McQueen, the one that says, "Oh, I'm with the Pinkertons." He was acting as Ratchet's personal secretary, and he's been in so long. He's been like a year working for Mr. Ratchet, so you think he can have nothing to do with the family. So this like shows you their revenge has been like a long time in coming, right? They've been planning and planning and planning it out. I think he had fallen in love with one of the girls in the household. Right. Who it was, I forget the girl's name. It was one of the girls that the police like pressured, and she ended up committing suicide. So he was like tore up because his true love killed herself. And then Countess Andrenyi and Count Andrenyi. The Countess is really the sister of Sonia Armstrong, the mother of the little girl. Right, so it's her aunt and her aunt's husband. So the Countess didn't actually have anything to do with it. She wasn't one of the 12. If you count them up, there's 13 people, but she didn't actually have anything to do with it. She has like a bit of a drug problem and some, we would call now mental health problems because of what she's gone through. So her husband like steps up to take her revenge instead. And then you have Cyrus Hardman, who is, oh, I mixed them up. Cyrus Hardman is the one who is the American.
Oh, the detective?
Yeah, he's the one that fell in love with the French nurse that committed suicide. So Hector McQueen, he was the one that was the like the driver, whatever. He was in the household still. There's so many names.
I know. There's like five or six people we missed.
Still?
Yeah.
I haven't got to them all yet.
I know. Oh, well, I mean, after we go through, we didn't talk about these last ones at all, except for the Swedish missionary, I think.
Okay. Okay, so Antonio is the Italian guy, and Monsieur Book the whole time keeps saying, it's the Italian. It's the Italian. He's obviously prejudiced against Italians. But he worked in the household as well. And so he had a piece of it, but it was not just him.
Right.
Greta, we didn't talk about her. We did a little. She's the Swedish lady, and she worked in the household, and she just cries and cries and cries and cries. She's a little girl, like a delicate little. Anyway, she can't really stomach the thought of murder, but she gets roped into this whole group revenge thing. Hildegard is the German person who's acting as Princess Dragomirov's maid, right? But in reality, she's the cook from the household. So she can't be questioned on her own. Princess Dragomirov's like, I'll answer for her. You can't interview her by yourself. You can't,
Yeah.
And I think Poirot ends up interviewing her in front of the princess, but in German. So she has to still answer. And then you have Masterman, who is Ratchet's valet. And he's kind of like the quintessential British valet, right? But again, he's originally from the household. So these are all different servants from the household. And then the last one is Pierre Michel, the last one I have, who is the father of the nurse that had committed suicide.
And he's working as the conductor on the train.
Yes. Yeah, he's the conductor. And so there's some question about the conductors, right? We think that's it. Like I get so caught up in the like the other travelers, we forget like, oh, the conductors. And he's the conductor on that train. Okay, so did you have somebody I missed?
No, you got everybody.
Okay.
I mean, just before when we were talking about people, we only got like halfway through.
Yeah.
But there's so many.
There's a lot of people.
There are. And like you said before, like some of them seem really guilty from the start and some of them don't. Then you find out things and then you're like, oh, maybe that's not right. And then you find out more things and then you have no idea what to think. And then at the very end, Poirot figures it out. What did you think of the ending?
I was shocked. So my younger child, a 13-year-old, was reading the book too. He was reading it for school, and he started maybe a week before I did. And I just had a lot going on, and so usually I could just sit down and tear through it, but he was ahead of me, and he came home one day, and he's like, "You're not going to believe it. It's a good surprise. There's a big twist." And I was like, "Shh, don't tell me. So when I got to the part where it like spells it all out, I was like, no. I couldn't believe it. Because I was looking for it to be a person, for it to be one of them, and for all the other clues to be somebody like the one person throwing off the scent.
Right.
This person was just like throwing other things out there.
Yeah.
So I didn't expect it. What about you?
No, I was shocked also the first time when I read it for the same reason, because you're expecting it to be one person and you're like, who is it? Who is it? And then it's everybody and you're like, what? Like how? Like that's not a thing.
Right. Yeah.
But then it all makes sense, and then you just feel kind of creeped out, and then at the end, like they decide to just like that's just it. Like we're not getting the police or anything because this is too big and too crazy. And you know that these people won't do it again because of what their motive was. And it's a motive that probably everybody could kind of understand a little bit.
Everybody can relate to.
Right. And so,
yeah.
So then at the very end, then I was just kind of blown away. Like,
you're going to let him get away with murder?
Yeah.
So Poirot said there's one of two. I love this though, because he says there's one of two things happened. And the first one is that at our last stop, somebody got on the train and they killed this person, and then they got off and they ran off.
Even though they know that didn't happen because there were no tracks in the snow.
I know. And the doctor was like, now you know that didn't happen, like in front of everybody. So that was my favorite. The doctor just was like, no. So, and then he gives the second option, which I kind of just love how dramatic he is about it, because you know that every person sitting there is like, oh, you know, like he figured it out. In that position of like, what's going to happen next and what is he going to do? And we're at the mercy of this person. And no matter, you know, like, because it's like Sherlock, right? You know that when this all happened, they knew that's what they were up against. They knew as soon as Poirot got on the train that this is who we're up against. You know, when they got in the snowdrift and they decided to go on with the murder anyway, this is what they were up against. And they decided to like throw it all in. You know, we're just going to take that chance. So, and it's weird because when they decide, when Poirot says, I suggest that you tell the police that the first was what happened, then you have that question of like, well, why did he just do that? What was Poirot's reason for doing that? Was it because he had sympathy for them? They went through and losing this child? Was it because, you know what I mean? Like, so it makes you think of all of those, like, of all those things. So it was really, I don't know, it was really crazy.
It was.
Not at all what I expected.
No.
Not at all what I expected.
So how was the new movie adaptation, aside from the mustache? Like, did it follow the storyline?
For the most part. There were a couple things that they did a little differently. Trying to think exactly. There's more littler things, like smaller things. So when it came down to Poirot saying this is what happened, I forget why, but they had people come from the next station to come dig them out, right? And so they unloaded everybody off the train to sit under this bridge, this train bridge. And so he's sitting with them under the train bridge telling them about it, while a couple guys are from the other station are digging them out of the snow.
Okay. That doesn't sound like a good idea in the middle of winter in a snowstorm or whatever, to make everybody go sit outside when they're just digging out the snow.
Okay, and where the train ends up in the snowbank, they're like half over a train, like over one of those big wooden trestle bridges where they're like thousands of feet over a big gorge. It's kind of weird. But so he pulls them all out and they go sit over in this little brick tunnel, and because it's sheltered from the wind, I guess, and they're not going to fall in the ditch. So they talk about it, and they decide what they're going to do. And I'm trying to think who it is. This is so bad because I just watched this movie. But then there's a big shootout.
Oh.
Like Poirot goes back to the train for something. There's a big there's this big fight scene with Poirot and somebody else on the train, and it wasn't. I don't remember who it was. This is terrible, but I don't even remember who it was. I just remember thinking that is not how this happened. There's no like why do we need to add this, you know? But I guess they didn't feel like the ending was exciting enough, so they had to add this here. Like, and of course it's over the gorge or whatever, so it was like you know, like I'm the guy hanging out the side of the train, like, oh, he's gonna fall over the edge, and then they had to fight a little more, and then we're like, oh, he's out the other side of the train. You know what I mean? Like, we had to do that a few times and make sure that everybody had a few good gasps before we could just be like, this is what we're doing, and now everybody get back on the train, and we're gonna move along, because we decided this is how it's gonna happen.
That's so funny. From what I remember, the Albert Finney version from 1974 and the David Suchet version from 2008 or 2010, both of those follow the book very closely. So.
That's what you should do. When you have a winning book, you should follow it, because then you're going to have a winning movie.
Yes.
I don't know what the right word is. Is it filmography is the right word? I don't know. It's beautiful. The filming was beautiful.
Oh, cinematography.
Cinematography. It was beautiful. It was really lovely. The costuming was lovely. Most of the casting, I think, was good.
Mm-hmm.
A couple seemed just kind of off, but it was pretty good. But that was just weird. Like just at the end, it was like, well,
Uh-huh.
you know.
That's funny. I'm gonna have to watch it anyway, and I'll like.
You are, just so you can have an opinion and tell me about it.
Yeah.
It's really bugging me that I can't think who did he have the fight with. I can't think of it.
So we should probably wrap it up since we're trying to keep our episodes shorter. But we can talk about Agatha Christie on the forum because there are some things that I want to say about her and about real life events that kind of inspired this storyline. One of which was the Lindbergh baby kidnapping, inspired the kidnapping portion of this book.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Because it had just happened a few years prior, and also Agatha Christie had traveled on the Orient Express, and a few months after she traveled on it, she heard about it being stuck in a snowdrift. And so she like kind of wove all these like real life events into the story.
Oh, it's because you're just good, right? That's what you do if you're a good author.
Yeah. But anyway, then I think we've talked about her a little bit before. She had an amazing life and all kinds of adventures, which is why her books are so great.
Yes. Well, she served through 2 world wars in dispensary. So she had all this, I found she had all this knowledge about pharmaceuticals and poisons and all that kind of thing, which came out in her books. She was married twice. She traveled all over the world. She did all kind of just amazing things. And then this huge literary career. She got tired of being Agatha Christie and she started writing under a pen name until a newspaper in the States broke that. And then she was like, dang it. But yeah, what a life, So just talented girl. Good girl. So they're pretty amazing. So yeah, and we can post more. And I did post some links on our Pinterest that have some pretty cool little tidbits as well. So there we go. That's probably it then for today. Next month's book is.
So we're going to read Moby Dick. Because that's a great way to start out the year with the ginormous classic book. So what we're gonna do? It's gonna be great. I already started reading it and I'm really enjoying it so far.
All right. I got a little catching up to do, but ready or not, here we go. All right. See y'all next time.
Bye.